After reports that he could be out, is Jonathan Gannon suddenly safe with the Arizona Cardinals? And Rapoport has something to say. Plus, the Arizona Cardinals host the Atlanta Falcons in what could be JG's last home game. Do they have a final stand? Bo and I, PHNX Cardinals pregame starts now. Welcome in live from Studio K. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier #1 Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe, friends. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. I'm Johnny Venerable. Sans Britton Golden this week. Bo Brack is joining us now from State Farm Arena in Glendale. Arizona Cardinals take on the Atlanta Falcons. Of course, this pregame show brought to you by our friends at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more info. An unconventional pregame show as the Cardinals take on the Falcons because, Bo, we almost went live yesterday. A new report from one Ian Rapoport and Tom Pelissero, we're going to break it down, signals that Jonathan Gannon could be safe regardless of what happens over the course of the next 3 weeks. Your initial thoughts before we take a look at the report?
Yeah, I mean, as we get into this game or as we preview this game, it really feels like the play on the field is definitely secondary as far as what's being talked about as far as this organization. So, 24 hours ago, we get a report from the top NFL insiders out there that kind of, I guess, confirmed that the assurances from, a couple of weeks ago, it's continue to be in place. Really, it's kind of interesting as we start to gear up for, the last 3 games of the Cardinals season.
And here it is. This is from Ian Rapoport, and then we're going to break this down and then subsequently, what this could mean. Let's take a look at this. Producer Noah. This is from Rap Sheet and Pelissero. It feels like ages ago that the Cardinals started 2-0. You're not kidding. Since then, they've lost 11 of 12 games as the offense was increasingly decimated by injuries, including a foot sprain that sidelined quarterback Kyler Murray since week 5 and countless hits to receivers and running backs. So already you can tell, framing it as injuries for the losses. Let's keep things going here. Noah, owner Michael Bidwell has been supportive of Jonathan Gannon, who overachieved with a rebuilding roster in his first 2 seasons, jumping from 4-13 to 8-9 last season. His young staff, including Drew Petzing, Nick Rollis, has continued to grow into their roles on the job. And Gannon, general manager Monty Austinford, have yet to have and pick their own quarterback, taking on Murray, whose contract, blah, 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 when they were hired in 2023. And here's the money paragraph to wrap things up with with a new quarterback, the Cardinals could make a leap toward contention next season in a division in which the other 3 teams are all currently competing for the NFC West #1 seed. If Bidwell decides the answer is yes, the sense is he'll stay the course. Putting all the factors together and noting the overwhelming number of injuries this year, one wouldn't expect change in Arizona. And so that has been the sticking point with this fan base, Bo. Let me just give you my 2 cents on how I read that.
Please.
And again, I'm not saying this to be disrespectful to anybody. I'm not saying this to be tongue-in-cheek. I'm giving you what I believe took place. Pelissero and Rap Sheet are doing kind of a catch-all article on the state of all these head coaches. And guess what? They're going to reach around and turn around and reach out to all these teams and say, what's happening? And Ian Rapoport has a very close relationship with the Arizona Cardinals. He gets fed information from the Arizona Cardinals for things like contract extensions. Ian Rapoport has basically turned into not an insider, but an extension of the NFL, where his job is to be kind of a PR spin man from a positive perspective all the time. So I do not doubt for a second that the Cardinals, for the most part, wrote that or wrote some version of that with bullet points, sent that to Rap Sheet and said, publish that. Here's an update on where things stand. That is not Diana Rossini digging dirt on the Jets and, the Philadelphia Eagles. This is not an insider. This is not, Teo Mackey reporting for the... This is Ian Rapoport being an extension of the Cardinals PR department. That's not me guessing. That's exactly what happened. And so what I would tell everybody is that while we believe Jonathan Gannon is safe right now based on this, what does it behoove Michael Bidwell and the people in charge of the Cardinals to come out and tell Rap Sheet, oh yeah, Gannon's toast in 3 weeks? I think this is very much a PR spin, and we're going to wait until the end of the year. Bo, you tell me if I'm wrong.
No, I don't think you're wrong at all. But I do think that it is very valid. I think that not valid, but as far as the report, I think it's on point right now, and I think that's where I think most of the people being upset should be, right?
Right.
Because you would think over the past 6 weeks that there would be some sort of, I guess, changing of the tide, but there hasn't been, and we'll just kind of see like what happens in the next couple games as far as this team as far as they're going to be persuaded by a couple more non-competitive performances. That remains to be seen. But as far as what we have going into this game, it feels like it's kind of been the status quo for a couple of weeks, and despite 4 out of the 6 being not close as far as the scores indicate, the team is staying steadfast with the assurance that was given.
They want the rest of the league to know, like, hey, we're going to give Gannon every chance to make a case to return. And Bo, you and I have talked about it off air. I think Michael Bidwell is looking for every reason to bring Jonathan Gannon back.
Yeah.
Any reason. Win us a game. Show some promise. Perform well at home. Maybe, I don't know, don't get blown out by 20 points 4 of the last 6 games. If this continues, though, I would hold this article with a very low ranking. I would take this with a grain of salt. Like we've talked about for 2 months and 6 weeks, Bo, you've said it repeatedly. It's like a lot can change. I think if Gannon, you want things to change on the field, but right now, for me as a Cardinal fan, like it's tough for me to expect anything different other than losses. And so, like if you're just subscribing to the narrative that they're going to lose today and next week and the week after, and they're going to finish 3-14. Like I expect this to be different. But on the flip side, as crazy as it sounds, if you win a game, and a lot of people feel like it's a meaningless game against the Falcons, and you're 4-13 instead of 3-14, I think he comes back. So this whole thing it is an unmitigated disaster. It's a disaster with how it's being postured. It's a disaster with the on-field product. It's a disaster that, Bo, this team is 15-32 and they haven't fired a coordinator. And you've got the LA Rams firing a special teams coach after, an underperforming Thursday night game in which they gave up a punt return. The accountability piece right now with the framing of injuries is laughable, given the fact that this defense, it's a who's who. They got everybody for the most part this weekend, and it hasn't mattered.
No, it hasn't. It has actually just translated into, 12 consecutive drives where the opposing offense has been put in position to score points in the first half. 13 if you count, the first drive for the Rams going into the second half. So, yeah, it's tough. And I think when you think about just the inability or the ability to try to, give any kind of information about the state of the organization, I think it's going to be taken with a lot of frustration, regardless of what's being said, outside of what people kind of want, like what the majority of people want, which is change. And anything that they hear otherwise, they're not going to hear what the excuses are, anything like that. But when you read this, it doesn't say anything as far as, the stunted direction, the regression as far as some key players and performances. And I think that that's where it just kind of piles on and adds fuel to the flame a little bit. as far as where the fan base is. It's like not only are they telling you something you don't want to hear as far as the totality of this thing, but also they're going to tell you something that you don't want to hear as far as why the reasoning behind it. Because I don't think there's a whole lot of reason that people would accept.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lack of accountability in this article. There's a lack of accountability with the regression of the players, the regression of the coaches, the regression in division. I mean, you read that article and the framing that's being done by Rap Sheet through the team. It is basically, we've had too many injuries to overcome, and Kyler wasn't this regime's guy, so that's a mulligan we're going to pull. I mean,
Right.
you're posturing Drew and Nick. I don't expect Drew to be back as they're
Right.
growing into their roles. No, like there's going to be, if Gannon returns, 2 out of the 3 coordinators are going to be out of jobs minimum. So like,
Right.
I don't know if they feel like that will suffice this fan base. I think if you talk to our audience and the audience on social media, that will not suffice. But when it is unthinkable to be in this kind of circumstance and just to be like, yeah, we're going to run this back. This is an anomaly, as JG calls it. It's a dip. I mean, like I know Cardinal fans aren't rooting for a win today because more losses means higher draft pick, means potential head coaching changes. But Bo, just from Gannon's standpoint, I do believe. I mean, you got the Cincinnati Bengals putting up damn near 50 points on the Dolphins today, and showing that
Right.
they're gonna try to finish the season strong. We've talked about it ad nauseum. This does feel like JG's last stand for 2025. Like what do you got? Can you do anything on either side of the ball?
Right. And if you think about it from that perspective, what is the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? I mean, best case for them, I think, would be win. It wouldn't be the best case, I think, for the organization, because as I look up right now, the Titans are losing a football game or winning a football game to the Chiefs. And you've got a lot of the draft dominoes that are kind of moving around. And you would benefit very much so from a loss and moving up the draft board, but a win would do, I think, wonders for him. As far as the worst case scenario, what it's been, for the last 6 weeks, where this game is in hand, unfortunately, by the time the teams go to the locker room, I don't think you can have another one of those added to the 2025 resume.
Cleveland Browns are down by 3 with just under 3 minutes remaining. They have the football, so a touchdown would give the Browns a win. For those of you scoring at home, the Cardinals are picking 6 right now. They have the tiebreaker over multiple teams for strength of schedule, but not the Titans. So assuming the Titans hold on, at least for today, should the Cardinals lose, they jump the Tennessee Titans and firmly move into that top 5. You also have the Giants now, who will get the ball down 3 to Minnesota. So, the Jets look dead. The Raiders look dead. Everything else appears to be in flux right now.
Giants, I think you can throw the Giants on that too.
Yeah,
think
I mean,
going
they're
to
only
lose
down
to
by 3 right now. Let's see. But yeah, they've got to win. For the Cardinals to leapfrog the Giants, they would have to win 2 more games. Bo, I want to ask you, as it relates to this article, we've talked about like the parameters in which Gannon would return and the change that would have to be done to the coaching staff. I mean, do you feel
Mhm.
like it is an overwhelming task to be able to remake what essentially is going to be all of your offensive staff, and then you can't be confident with a lot of the development you've seen defensively. We already know they're going to have a new defensive line coach. Is this possible for a coach that would be on the hot seat, the hottest of hot seats going into next year, then to remake a staff on the fly in January?
It would be virtually unprecedented. I don't know if we've maybe seen a comeback of those proportions in the NFL level after having 3 years of data. I'm talking like in the salary cap era
Yeah.
and having, the lack of success. I don't know if we've seen somebody survive and then find an immense amount of success or consistent success after that. So that's where you kind of find little to no precedent of it. So, what is it going to be that's going to inspire any kind of confidence, any kind of hope? A couple of the things that you had mentioned as far as, if they can get this thing back up to full strength, just having the roster and many of the injured players back, but then under, better guidance offensively, I think that that's a step in the right direction. But as far as it still remains daunting. It still remains like you still have a lot of ground to make up, a ton of ground to cover as far as trying to get this team from now you need to go back to competing, and then you need to get from competing to winning football game. And in that article, it mentioned, the NFC West, and that's way easier said than done. I mean, this is just a loaded division that it's going to be tough. That even if you're full strength for the majority of the season, to compete week in and week out, and you haven't been able to show that ability to do so, especially in your last three performances.
We have not seen a competitive outing from the Cardinals in 3 weeks' time. Will that change today? Let's take a look at our pre-flight inactives here on PHNX Cardinals. Max Melton continues to be in some kind of limbo with this franchise. Darren Hall out with a concussion. Jalen Thompson, that's unfortunate, hamstring. Evan Brown and Paris Johnson up front, out. And then Elijah Jones continues to be out as a former third-round pick. Taylor Demerson is making his return. Cody Simon as well, Bo. And again, you got a first-year player, you got a second-year safety. That's not nothing for a defense that looked like a sieve of itself against Houston, who offensively is not very good. I mean, what is the bigger return, Simon or Taylor Demerson, in your mind?
Oh, Rabbit by a large margin. I mean, but I also think that he could go in there and help um, supplement the need at the linebacker position. He was kind of playing those three safety looks.
Yeah.
I think that he can play a little bit of that role. He can help with the poor tackling, I think, that we've witnessed the last couple of weeks, and then also he's got a nose for the football. Even though he's missed all this time, still tied for the team lead as far as picks. He's got the ability to get his hands on one, and if you get enough pressure, which is going to be key on Kirk Cousins, who's statuesque at this point in his career, can you generate enough to maybe force him into some mistakes?
Yeah, I think Cody Simon has not been great, but I do think there's a drop off between Cody and guys like Owen Pappo and Akeem Davis Gaither. So
No doubt.
maybe he gives him a boost as a run defender, and then especially, Taylor Demerson is their most athletic. You might be able to say it's their best safety right now, pound for pound. I know Jalen was playing solid, but I mean, Budda Baker, what has happened to Budda Baker this year has to be studied in years to come. He just does not look like the same Arizona Cardinal, and we'll see.
I don't know if it has to be studied. I think it's just it's the tale as old as time right there, as far as father time.
Yeah,
and his
age.
impressive winning percentage.
He looked like he was going to be able to play on this new deal. It does not look like it. We've got super chats we're going to get to. Thunder saying, I hate rooting for losses. Wish Rams didn't have Atlanta's pick. I mean, that's another factor is, you win today and it boosts the Rams pick and it boosts your pick down. And, if you're rooting for this team to have turnover on the coaching staff, I mean, if you're a Cardinal fan, you're a very torn Cardinal fan today. Bo, what is the crowd like today at Old State Farm Stadium?
Sparse, to say the least. It's a nice day though. You got the roof open here, so at least you got that going for you. But no, not much going on as far as not a whole lot of energy or juice right now in this building.
It's a rough one for this team. We're going to jump into our final game predictions, but first I want to remind everybody this show presented by our friends at Bet365. Our pregame picks coming up in just a minute. And, of course, our pregame threads brought to you by our friends at Rally House. I had family in the area. They went to Rally House this morning. Love the Glendale location. Cardinals may not be playing good, but they're looking good in the process. Those icy whites, Trey McBride, perfect this holiday season. And speaking of making money this holiday season, do it with our friends at Bet365. I've got a 4-leg parlay that I feel like is house money today, plus 450 combined. I like the over in this one, 48.5 total points. I think the Cardinals could give up 30-plus by themselves, and Jacoby Brissett is always good for some garbage time fun. Between Jacoby, 260 passing, and Michael Wilson, 60-plus receiving and 6-plus receptions. I don't know, Bo. I saw, I think it was Schefter, among others, who said that they're going to ease Marvin Harrison Jr. back into this game. You feel like the one most adamant that you believe Marv is just going to go back to his old wide receiver one ways. Is there a way that they can make this work with all three guys, or is that just beyond Drew Petzing's capabilities at this point?
Those are two different discussions. I think that Marv getting back in there, there's always with Jacoby and who he's targeted. I don't know if they would, change their ways as far as him being kind of first read as he's been with Jacoby since to kind of taking over reins. So even if he does play and he's back in and he's on a maybe a snack count, I think he's still going to be the primary receiver on the plays that is in there. And should see enough targets to be productive.
Giants are toast. But again, the Giants remain a team I feel like we want to continue to see losses, Bo,
Yeah.
because they represent the first team in the draft, and that represents that golden ticket to Fernando Mendoza. I think the Titans' dream of another team trading up, I think that is likely dead. Titans are playing good football now, which is crazy to think about. And then you also think about the fact that, we've got the Raiders who play the Chiefs at the end of the year. Could they get another win? The Jets and the Raiders look dead. But again, if the Cardinals can somehow get to a point where they can jump the Browns, I know it's asking a lot, and they can get to that 4 spot, I think you're in really good shape then. But otherwise, just going to have to see how this transpires. Let's get to Super Chats today. Hit that like button. We've got Iron Will, $2. How do you overachieve with 30%, 31% win rate in 3 years? It's a good question. I think, Bo, when you're seeing Ben Johnson and you're seeing Mike Vrabel and you're seeing Duval all overachieve this year and not only win, but win their division in year 1, and the Cardinals are a laughingstock in year 3 of a regime, there are rebuilds, and then there's enough is enough, in my opinion. I don't think you can sell this fan base right now on vibes going into this offseason that, hey, a couple tweaks here, guys, we're going to be ready to rock and roll with this coaching staff.
Well, yeah, the latter is impossible. You have to punt on that. You have to just, if you're gonna do it, you have to do it just because you have to trust that and have that sense of conviction that you know better than everybody else, and you better hope that it pays off, because then it's just gonna look like everybody's gonna tell you they told you so.
Yeah. I mean, it's very difficult. Cody Mack got gifted a membership. Awesome, Cody Mack. We
Nice.
appreciate you. Again, do us a favor. Hit that like button. The Cardinals may be a downer, but we're trying to keep everybody here composed and ready to go as it relates to any changes with this team. This game, Bo, we didn't really break it down, but as it relates to, Jacoby Brissett versus Kirk Cousins, Falcons are a 3-point favorite. You put any stock into that, or is this very much a sign of, well, the Falcons are a bad team, Cardinals are a bad team, it's a coin flip?
Yeah, I mean, Falcons coming off an emotional win on what a primetime game last week, where they could have very well lost that game as well. I mean, Kirk Cousins was a strip sack fumble away from that game being in hand and the Bucs going with a dub, but they were able to overcome that. They were able to overcome, fourth and was it very long and
Yeah.
third and long, and they converted there and had a couple things go their way, but they needed that. Those were necessary in order to just pull off a win by the skin of their teeth. So no, still a very flawed team. We know the playmakers. We know who's productive, and even with Bijan and Kyle Pitts going off, they're still a team that's going to struggle to kind of win that, put games on ice, and come away with a dub. So given that, there's going to be the opportunity. Can you avoid what's happened the last couple of games where you put yourself so far out of reach?
I'm just at the point, and I know I've said this all week, like after what an undrafted practice squad running back did with Houston last week, Atlanta with Bijan, he's the number 1 rusher in the NFL. How are the Cardinals going to contain Bijan Robinson? I mean, if Raheem Morris is trying to polish up his resume for his next job, or wants
Yeah.
to have a kind of saving grace here, I mean, I think if they win today, they get to 6 wins. I just feel like you give Bijan, there's no excuse not to give Bijan Robinson about 30
Right.
touches today. I know Drake London's
But it
back.
hasn't been a
You got
it
Kyle
hasn't been a
Pitts,
winning
but
formula though. It hasn't translated to a lot of wins for them. I mean, he's gotten the production, but have they won football game?
I think you're looking at the Cardinals right now, and this is tough because we used to feel like they were this, and then they've gotten away from this, and they've built on what they've drafted. But I look at the Cardinals as they're an elixir for bad teams. They're an elixir for average units. They make your unit, much better. It goes up a letter grade or 2 when you play this team right now. And that's the biggest indictment I can say. T Votto, $2. Will JV and Bo shave their heads for Saleh, my guy? Probably not. I was willing to do frosted tips for Joe Burrow, but I will not shave my head for Robert Saleh. These next 3 weeks are going to be a roller coaster of emotion because we broke down coaches this week. then you got got Albert Breer saying 70% Gannon's gone, and then you got the team giving rap sheet a press release and saying print this, everything's fine. I just there's a long. We got 3 weeks to go. It's a long way to go, but man, Cardinal fans need something to look forward to, whether it's a draft pick or a clean slate. I would love to talk about changes, but I gotta see a willingness from the front office to do so, Bo.
Right. No, it's going to be a wait and see on that, unfortunately.
Hit that like button. Subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube if you missed our Friday preview show. Both Bo, Noah, and myself picked the Cardinals to lose, and I picked them to lose handsomely to Atlanta. We will see. This is a team that has been bankrupt of compatibility and special teams play, among other things. We will see if they've got one more trick left in their bag for 2025 before going on the road to play Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford. For Bo, Noah, I'm Johnny. Hit that like button. We're going to be back. No watch along today. It's just me by my lonesome, but I'm going to be back on the halftime show. And then Bo's going to join us on the post-game show. We're going to keep you up to speed on everything as the Cardinals currently move up in the top 5 of the 2026 NFL Draft. We'll see you at halftime. Take care, everybody.
We all silly like the mayor.